هُدِيَ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. Indeed, the person has been guided to the straight path. Or in this very verse, وَكَيْفَ تَكْفُرُونَ, why will you disbelieve? وَأَنْتُمْ تُتْنَى عَلَيْكُمْ آيَاتُ اللَّهِ, when the verses of Allah is being recited to you. وَفِيكُمْ رَسُولُ, and among you is the messenger of Allah. Allah now says, وَمَنْ يَعْتَصِمْ بِاللَّهِ, whoever hold on to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَقَدْ هُدِيَ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. This is the person who is rightly guided to the straight path. The next verse, Allah now says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, O you who believe, اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ, fear Allah, حَقَّ تُقَاتِ, the way he should be feared. وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ, and don't die إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ, except as Muslims. The next verse, Allah now says, this is my major point of reference. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا, hold on to the rope of Allah all together. وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and don't be divided. Allah addressing the Muslim. The reason, before I complete that verse and the translation, why these numbers of verses were revealed is that there was this Sha'ath ibn Qais, inshallah, if I remember very well. This is a Jew who the hatred he had for Muslims and Islam was so strong that anytime he sees the Aus and Khazraj now sitting down as brothers, as Muslims, because they have not united their past war, fighting or battle, they are put it behind them as they are now united as Muslims, then he will be so angry. And he started devising means. How will I ensure that these people remain divided? So he called on a young boy who had memorized some of those poems that they used to recite those days when they used to fight among themselves, those poems that were composed during the course of those battles, to come in their midst and sit down so that he will recite those poems, so in order to still cause division among them. And the boy actually almost succeeded. As he came sitting down and reciting the poem, they remember the days when they were fighting valorous soldiers and heroes. And before you know, the house was one side, the Khazraj were the other side. The Muslims were divided into two. This one carrying his arm, the other one carrying arm. They were charged for war. The information quickly got to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Rasul ﷺ rushed down. It was in the face of this that these verses were revealed. Allah is saying, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا, hold on to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of you. وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and don't be divided. وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ, and remember the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you. إِذْ كُنْتُمْ أَعْدَاءَ, when you, before now, you were enemies. فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ, Allah reconciled between your hearts. فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا, and with the favor of Allah, you became brothers in Islam. وَكُنْتُمْ عَلَى شَفَى حُفْرَةٍ مِّنَ النَّارِ, and you are on the verge of falling into the fire. فَأَنْقَذَكُمْ مِنْهَا, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala delivered you from the fire. كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ آيَاتِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make clear to you his verses so that you'll be rightly guided. Allah, the admonition continue. وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ, let there be a party, a group among you inviting people to good. وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, commanding people all goodness. وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, forbidding all evils. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ, these are the successful ones. Allah now warned again, وَلَا تَكُونُوا, and don't be كَالَّذِينَ, like those, meaning the Jews and the Christians, تَفَرَّقُوا, that became divided, وَاخْتَلَفُوا, and became fall into disagreement in their religion, مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَهُمُ الْبَيِّنَاتِ, after clear evidence has come to them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ, for such who divided themselves, separated, and became group and all of that, and changed the religion after the clear evidence has been established, for such is a painful or great punishment. This is an example of how the Jews use the tactics of divide, always try to divide the Muslim Ummah. So some of those division you see within the Muslim Ummah today, go back. It's a lecture on its own, and go and find out the origin, whether you are talking of Shiism, whether you are talking of the Khawarij, whether you are talking of the Mu'tazila, all of this group, whether you are talking of the Hororiya, all of them, you trace back, you always see that there is a Jew behind it who has feigned to become Muslim and join the ranks of Muslim and begin from within, try to distort Aqidah, the belief of some Muslims. And this is one of their tactics. Among their tactics that the Quran also spoke about so well is how they always speak evil about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and about the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like Quran chapter 3, Allah, verse 181. Allah mentioned when Allah is saying, لَقَدْ سَمِعَ اللَّهُ قَوْلَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ فَقِيرٌ وَنَحْنُ أَغْنِيَاءُ. Allah has heard the statement of those who say Allah is poor. We are the ones who are rich. This was revealed when Allah revealed the verse, من ذا الذي يقرض الله قرضا حسنا فيضاعفه له أضعافا كثيرة. Who will loan to Allah a beautiful loan? And I said, your Lord is poor. They now started mocking, saying these evil words about Allah, that Allah is poor. We are the ones who are rich. In other verse, Allah is saying, وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودُ يَدُ اللَّهِ مَغْلُولَةٌ. The Jews are saying that the hands of Allah are tied. In other words, Allah is selfish. Allah does not spread or give from his bounty and mercy. Allah says, غُلَّتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَلُعِنُوا بِمَا قَالُوا. It is their hand that are tied, and for this evil statement they are saying about Allah, they have been cursed. Allah now give a sifa of himself, بَلْ يَدَاهُ مَبْسُوطَتَانِ يُنْفِقُ كَيْفَ يَشَاءُ. Rather, his hands, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his two hands are spread out. He spends the way he wishes and giving provision again and again. So this is one of their tactics where they try to say evil things about Allah. Like I also mentioned, also make bad remark about the Prophet. We remember how instead of saying Salamu Alaikum to the Prophet, they twist the Salamu Alaikum, which means peace be upon you, to Sam. Sam means death be upon you. That the Rasul will not reply, I'm upon you, wa alaikum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah, I think Surah Al-Mujadala, Quran 58, verse 8, mentioning how they say bad things about the Rasul sallallahu alam tara ila alladhina nuhu anin najwa thumma ya'uduna lima qalu thumma ya'uduna lima nuhu an wa yatanajawna bil ithmi wal udwan wa ma'asiyati ar-rasul. They always come, have a secret discussion among themselves, saying bad things about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Among the tactics, again, as we continue to explain this very well, is that they always take side with the enemies of Muslims. They always take side with the enemy of Muslims, and the hypocrites among the Muslims and the Jews are always working hand in hand. And with this, through these tactics, they have been able to deal a heavy blow on Muslims on different occasions when you go down to history, where they go and ally with the hypocrites among the Muslims and begin to attack the Muslim and Islam from within. Up to the killing of the third Caliph. Whenever you study the history, you see this there. This is how and these tactics they always use. In this regard, Allah, the cooperation between the hypocrites and the Jews, Allah is saying, Alam tara ila alladhina tawallaw qawman ghadiba Allahu alayhim ma hum minkum wala minhum wa ya'rifuna ala al-kadhib wa hum ya'lamun. Have you not seen and considered the condition of those hypocrites among the Muslims who turn and take as their allies this group of persons who Allah is angry upon, referring to the Jews. They are neither fully with them, neither with you. So in other words, you see all of these being discussed in many places in the Quran. And this is therefore in completion of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep mentioning these things in the Quran so that the Muslims will know their enemy, the Muslims will know their tactics, and the Muslims will know how to kind of protect themselves whenever they see the manifestation of any of this. Today, inshallah, we will be looking more in details, though it's going to be brief. But what we majorly want to look at is the history of the Jews from the very beginning. But because we want everything we are discussing to have because the Quran is the book and the last book. There is no information you are going to look for except you find it in the Quran. That is why the ink of this ummah, Habur Hadihil Ummah, Abdullah ibn Abbas, who was so blessed with the tafsir of the Quran, used to say that anything he is looking for, he goes to the Quran. The Quran has answer to every issue. So in other words, there is no issue that has happened, that will happen, and that is happening now also in the future, except you see it mentioned either by reference or inference in the Quran. So when we therefore want to look at the history of the Jews, I want to pin it down to two surahs of the Quran. And one is in Quran chapter 7, that is Surah Al-Araf. You go to 167, 168, 169. These three verses, in summary, said all that need to be said about the history of the Jews. We will look at this verse before we begin to discuss some of the details historically that we have been able to get before we go to that. These three verses in Surah Al-Araf and the other one in Quran 17, that is Surah Israel, that very surah that is named after the children of Israel. So let's start with Quran chapter 7. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, verse 167, Allah is saying, وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكَ. Remember, when your Lord, ta'adhana, made a proclamation. It's an announcement that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made in the Quran. لَيَبْعَثَنَّ عَلَيْهِمْ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ مَنْ يَسُومُهُمْ سُوءَ الْعَذَابِ. That up to the day of Qiyamah, meaning from the time of the revelation of this verse. Not even that, because it is in Surah Al-Araf, Quran chapter 7, you find in that surah a full detail, another detail of the history of the children of Israel, starting from Musa alayhi salam and how he came to Pharaoh with the message, asking him to free the children of Israel. The story, like we know, we are not intended to discuss the details because that will require days of lectures. But after Allah in that surah mentioned all the evils that they were committing, Allah now made the proclamation that Allah, your Lord, ta'adhana rabbuka, made the proclamation, لَيَبْعَثَنَّ عَلَيْهِمْ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ مَنْ يَسُومُهُمْ سُوءَ الْعَذَابِ, that he will continue to let upon them, send against them, إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ, up to the day of judgment. He will send against them مَنْ يَسُومُهُمْ سُوءَ الْعَذَابِ, someone that will let upon them the worst kind of punishment. Meaning Allah is telling us that he will send individuals, human beings, not angels, human beings, over time, again and again, he will continue to send against them people who will punish them for their crime. Allah now say, Inna rabbaka la sari'ul iqab. Indeed, your Lord is swift in punishment, in retribution. Wa innahu la ghafurur rahim. And he, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is forgiving, most merciful. There is a reason why this verse ended with this two quality description of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number one, that he, Allah, is swift in punishment, to let us know that no sin that will be committed by the Jews except they will be fully punished for it, as we are going to see at the end of this lecture, inshallah. And Allah now says, Wa innahu la ghafurur rahim, is all forgiving, most merciful, to let us know that some of the things that the Muslims may suffer in the hands of the Jews may be as a consequence of their mistake and their own sin, for which Allah will decide to forgive them in this world and therefore punish them for it in this world without delaying it to the day of judgment. The next verse, which is verse 168, Allah now says, وَقَطَّعْنَاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُمَمًا. We now divided and spread them on the surface of the earth, umama, as nations. We can go back and check the root word of the word ghetto. This is how the Jews were spread out in Europe, in Asia, in different countries, in Africa, in little communities here and there, as we come to mention. They begin to form, they don't mix into other persons, they don't mix with people. Whenever they are in a community, they form their own enclave in their own area. Those Jewish community was, inshallah, where the word ghetto came from. It was originally from that. So Allah is saying, وَقَطَّعْنَاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُمَمًا. We spread them and divided them on the surface of the earth. They were no longer having a permanent land where they were living. وَقَطَّعْنَاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُمَمًا مِنْهُمُ الصَّالِحُونَ. Allah is saying, among them are those who are righteous, وَمِنْهُمْ دُونَ ذَلِكَ. And among them are those who are not righteous. Maybe, so that I will not forget, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, مِنْهُمُ الصَّالِحُونَ, whenever you go back to the history of the Jews, you are going to notice that some few, not many, some few among them actually came to embrace Islam. This is the righteous one Allah is referring to. Minhum salihun. People like Abdullah ibn Salam. Abdullah ibn Salam was a Jewish scholar. As at the time the Rasul migrated to Medina, he paid the Prophet a visit and he saw the Rasul. He said, this face is not the face of an impostor, of a liar. He knew this is the true messenger of Allah, as foretold. He fit the quality, the description mentioned in the book, in the Torah, and he therefore embraced Islam. But before his people will be aware of his Islamization, he decided to tell the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam should not allow them to know that he has embraced Islam, because he said, "Inna al-Yahuda qawmun buhtu," that the Jews are people who lie and commit a lot of sin. I know if they hear that I've embraced Islam, they are going to say all false, different lies, formulate a lot of lies, and say terrible things about me. I want you to find out from them who I am, my person, my personality, before you let them know that I have embraced Islam. And that is how the Prophet ﷺ actually invited the Jews. As he invited them, he now asked them, he said, Man huwa Abdul Salam fikum? Who is the person of Abdul Salam among you? He said, Abdul Salam, khayruna wa abdu khayruna. The best of us, the son of the best of us, the Sayyidina wa abdu Sayyidina, our leader, the son of our leader. They begin to say all good things about him. And they say, what do you think if he will come to embrace Islam? They say, no, that is not possible. The moment they said that, the Abdullah ibn Salam now came out and declared his shahada. Immediately there and then, they changed their All what they have been saying. They say he's the worst of us, the son of the worst of us, and all of that. Exactly what Abdullah ibn Salam. This is how the Jews behave. So we still have people like Abdullah ibn Salam. We have people like Ubay ibn Ka'b. We remember ibn Ka'b was a Jewish rabbi as well who embraced Islam. That even when Allah revealed "Lam yakun alladhina kafaru," Surah Al-Bayyinah, Allah specially commanded the Prophet to go and meet Ubay ibn Ka'b to recite that surah to him. And he went to Ubay ibn Ka'b and said, Inna Allah amarani an akra alayka Surah Al-Bayyinah. Allah has commanded me to come and recite Surah Al-Bayyinah to you. And Ubay ibn Ka'b said, Allahu samani lak. Allah mentioned me by name. And the Rasul said, yes, Fabaka Ubay ibn Ka'b. Ubay ibn Ka'b, out of joy, cried. So you have people like Ubay ibn Ka'b, Abdullah ibn Salam, Ka'b al-Ahbar, but you want to mention those who actually embrace the religion. Islam among the Jews, they are actually few. So that is why Allah is saying, Minhum salihuna wa minhum duna dhalik. Among them are those who are evil, who are not righteous. Allah is saying, wa balawnahum bil hasanati wa sayyi'at. And over their what? Over their course of history, we continue to test them. Quran is summarizing the history, long history, into few words. وَبَلَوْنَاهُ بِالْحَسَنَاتِ وَالسَّيِّئَاتِ. And we begin to test them. We test them. At times we tested them with good. وَالسَّيِّئَاتِ. At times we tested them with evil. Why? لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجُونَ. Perchance they may return to the path. But the Jews are stubborn people. Very stubborn. So Allah is saying, generation after generation, after the righteous generation of the prophets and all of that, Allah is saying, فَخَلَفَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ خَلْفٌ. A generation succeeded this earlier generation. Allah is saying, وَرِثُ الْكِتَابَ. They were able to see the Torah left by Musa. They were able to see the Torah. They inherited the Torah. But what did they do? They turned their back on the Torah. What they are pursuing is the worldly life. يَأْخُذُونَ عَرْضَ هَذَا الْأَدْنَى. Seeking the worldly pleasure. This, Allah call it adna, the mean world. وَيَقُولُونَ سَيُغْفَرُ لَنَا. And as they are committing all atrocities, they are the ones involved in riba usually. They are the ones, all the economic quagmire you see everywhere in the world, they are the ones behind it. The killings, they are the ones behind it, like the one we are witnessing in Palestine. All the moral decadence, LGBT, name it, they are the ones behind it. All for what? Like we mentioned last week. And as they are doing this, they feel they are the choosing people. They are still telling themselves, Allah will forgive us. Again, another opportunity to commit a crime, to steal, to take other people's wealth, to defraud countries, they will still seize their opportunity. Allah is saying, asking them, Alam yukhad alayhim mithaqul kitabi alla yaqulu ala Allahi al-haq. The prophet, did they not take covenant agreement from them that they will always say the truth about Allah, not the way they begin to formulate and lies and write books with their own hand? Allah yaqulu ala Allah illa al-haq, that they should always say the truth and study the Torah wa darasu ma fi. But no, all of this they turn behind. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, for those who didn't behave like the Jews and seek Allah's pleasure, وَالدَّارُ الْآخِرَةِ خَيْرٌ لِلَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ. The hereafter is better for those who have the consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Would you therefore not have reason? These are three verses. I feel it in summary discusses the Jews, how they continue to commit crime, as we are going to see in history, how Allah began to send people time after time to punish them, how they were divided and spread on the surface of the earth, how they continue to pursue this worldly life. It will interest you if you remember Surah Al-Qasas. Surah Al-Qasas. where the story of Musa is again told. You remember towards the end of the surah, subhanallah, I can't remember the verse now. In that surah al-Qasas, towards the end, Allah narrated the story of Qarun. Allah is saying, Inna Qaruna kana min qawmi Musa. That Qarun was from the people of Musa, meaning he was a Jew. Fabaga alayhim. And he commit atrocities against his own people. Why? Because of his economic pursuits. Allah is saying, now min al-kunuzi, we gave him treasure, that the keys to those treasure, ma inna mafatihahu, if they are gathered, latanu abil usbati ulil quwwa. You gather 10 heavy men to carry those keys, they will not be able to carry the keys, not the treasure. Go, you will know the story of Qarun. Go and study a Jew. This is how they are. So, how for just their worldly gain, they are ready to trample and commit all sorts of atrocities. And the consequence of that is that they continue to be punished. Allah continues to send people against them who will punish them, and they are divided over a long period of time, spread out on the surface of the earth. This is towards the end. What about the end of the Jews? I want to call us to Quran chapter 17, verse 4 to 7, inshallah. 17, that is Surah to Isra. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned about them in that surah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَقَضَيْنَا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ فِي الْكِتَابِ. We decree in the book, in the Quran, past the rule, it was something that Allah already knew will happen. Allah permitted it to happen, and He wrote it and decreed it. وَقَضَيْنَا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ لَتُفْسِدُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَّتَيْنِ. Twice are you going to commit havoc on the surface of the earth. Here, because there are differences of opinion among the scholars on what are the reference of these 2 times Allah is mentioning, but the tafsir I choose is that because Allah says fil kitabi, in the book, meaning the Quran, is what will happen after the sending of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because before the sending of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a lot of many havoc has been committed by the Jews, as we are going to mention them when we continue, when we now try to summarily mention some of them as we know, taking it from beginning to the end, inshallah. That twice are you going to cause corruption on the surface of the earth. لَتُفْسِدُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَّتَيْنِ وَلَتَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا. And twice are you going to behave so arrogantly on the surface of the earth. Allah is saying, فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ أُولَاهُمْ. When the first promise of covenant comes to effect, meaning when they commit the first crime, Allah is saying, بَعَثْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ عِبَادًا لَنَا. We are going to let upon you a servant of ours, uli ba'sin shadid, who is strong in power. Fajasu khilal ad-diyar. And in the course of punishing you for your crime, he is going to penetrate to your dwellings. This is where scholars differ. Some look at it, at what time were the Jews so punished and their houses were destroyed? This is where the scholars who choose the opinion that this happened before the Prophet ﷺ refer to the conqueror of that Babylonian king, Bukhtanasar, the one that is known as Nebuchadnezzar. He was the one who dealt a heavy blow on the Jews, destroyed their homes, even destroyed the mosque, and carried them into captivity again. And some say this is the first one Allah is referring to. But again, other scholars, which somehow I go with, say no, it is the first crime they committed was when the Rasul came to Medina. When he came to Medina, he had an agreement with the Jews for them to coexist peacefully. The one that is popularly known as the Sahifa, the Constitution of Medina. Islam was never a religion that was going to say everybody must become a Muslim by force. No, he allowed the Jews, Christians, whatever, to practice their religion, but for peaceful coexistence, all the guidelines, rules, and agreements were written out with the Jews. But the Jews, one after the other, betrayed all of this agreement. One, in the battle of Uhud, in the battle of Khandak, the trench, Banu Qurayza went to forge alliance with the Meccans in order to fight the Muslims, which turned against them. Banu Nadir, again, they plotted to kill the Prophet ﷺ. In short, like when the Prophet ﷺ was marching against Banu Nadir, who were killed and their houses destroyed and all of that, they at the time believed that they are strong enough to stand against the Muslim Ummah. But after the Rasul laid siege to the city and Allah cast fear in their by themselves, Allah is saying, يُخْرِبُونَ بُيُوتَهُمْ بِأَيْدِيهِمْ وَأَيْدِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. They begin to uproot their houses with their own hands and the hands of the believers. فَاعْتَبِرُوا يَا أُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ. Take lessons, all you people of reasoning. So in other words, these are the two opinions. But anyhow, they have, like the previous verse mentioned, they continue to commit havoc and the punishment continue to come, as we are going to discuss in summary this last one, or this one they are committing against the Palestinians, where we discuss the hadith that the Rasul mentioned. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, when they commit the first crime, that we will send a servant against them who will punish them, enter their houses, destroy their houses, and wakana wa'adan mafula. And this is a promise that will come into effect. Then after this, Allah says, ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَا لَكُمُ الْكَرَّةَ عَلَيْهِمْ. After some time, we are now going to give you a karra, opportunity for you to have power over the Muslims, because this is where I take it. Because at the early period, the Muslims, under the leadership of the Prophet ﷺ and the leadership of Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, the rightly guided Khalif, always had dominance. But at a time, the Muslim became unmindful. The Muslim forgot the role they were given, and we too begin to pursue worldly things, disobey Allah, and within time they go back and started planning. Allah says, we will now give you opportunity, you the Jews, opportunity against the Muslim. Allah is talking to them, the Jews, and will strengthen you, expand your way, be amwalin wa banin. In other words, till today, is it IMF, is it World Bank, is it all the economy? You see that they are behind. We strengthen, expanded your wealth, wa banin, give the children. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ أَكْثَرَ نَفِيرًا. We make you have more ammunitions, more resources. Allah now said, in ahsantum, that is inshallah verse 7 now. We took it from 4, we're 9, 7. Allah is saying, in ahsantum, if you do good, ahsantu li anfusikum. The reward of it is the benefit will come back to you. Wa in asatum, but you commit evil, then falaha. Again, the consequences will come back to you. Allah now says, فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ الْآخِرَةِ. If the last promise now comes, which is the second one. Don't forget, Allah said twice. No, they have committed the first evil, they were punished, and all of that. So we're going to discuss those who were punished, those who were banished, and all of that. And later on, they have the means now, like they have the means when the last one comes, لِيَسُوءُ وُجُوهَكُمْ, in order to blacken your face, sadden your face. وَلِيَدْخُلُوا الْمَسْجِدَ. That last promise where they will again come and enter the mosque. كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. The way they entered it the first time. وَلِيُتَبِّرُوا مَا عَلَوْا تَتْبِيرًا. And at that time, they will destroy all the tall high rises. Is why I know that this is the first. If you go there now, top buildings, all what is standing high will be brought down. وَلِيُتَبِّرُوا مَا عَلَوْا تَتْبِيرًا. Going down, this is in verse 7, in this Surah 17, going down to verse 104, Allah explained how that last destruction and punishment is coming. Allah said, وَقُلْنَا مِنْ بَعْدِهِ لِبَنِي إِسْرَائِيلِ. And after this opportunity, we said to the children of Israel, أُسْكُنُوا الْأَرْضَ. Go and live on the surface of the earth. Meaning, if they want to say somebody should go and live on the surface of the earth without specifying, it means anywhere. This is a reference to how they will be scattered about. أُسْكُنُوا الْأَرْضَ فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ الْآخِرَةِ. As you are living about in different places, جِئْنَا بِكُمْ لَفِيفًا. When the last promise is now coming to effect, جِئْنَا بِكُمْ, we are going to gather you لَفِيفًا in one place. So at the time when they begin to hatch plan of having a land for Jew and all of that, little did they know that they were actually bringing to effect the last promise that Allah has made. Today, like Allah has said, Jina bikum lafifa, we are going to gather you together. We have Israel as a state that every American and others and the West and many of them countries are struggling to support and to defend. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, ضُرِبَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الذِّلَّةُ أَيْنَمَا ثُقِفُوا إِلَّا بِحَبْلٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَحَبْلٍ مِّنَ النَّاسِ. Jews on their own can never have power. They need to hide under other people, like the Jewish lobby in America today, that ensure that anybody, whether as a senator, as a president of America, must look for their support. And they have their conditions and all of that. That is ensuring their protection, they continue to gain support from America and others. It's all what Allah said. Without this, they are villa, they are nothing. So they will continue to be humiliated, except at the time, إِلَّا بِحَبْلٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ, Allah decided to grant them protection under an Islamic state, وَحَبْلٍ مِّنَ النَّاسِ. Or other people like America and others decide to grant them protection. Inshallah, I'm getting signal that maybe we should pause here and continue from here next week. So inshallah, no problem. Actually, there are things we wanted to end this verse. I think these verses are okay before we begin to now look at what has happened. These verses it's a summary of everything that has to do with them and how they are later going to this event will finally unfold. Inshallah, we'll discuss this by next week if Allah stay alive. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Well, I think you will all agree that again we have been tantalized and fed and drank from this extensive, resourceful scholar of ours. Just like the mentor said last week, I think the ice on the cake is the persistent Quranic reference to actually show the connection between the past and the present in respect to the Jews' character and behavior. Because of time, I don't want to paraphrase or summarize what he have said. As we used to do, we will, while hoping that we continue from here next week. He has highlighted a number of issues to discuss. And like I'm sure it's not been told that we are not always in a hurry to release resource when we see one. So we can be here as long as possible to continue to drink from this fountain of knowledge. May Allah continue to increase you in knowledge and all that is good. Let me welcome contributions, if any, from the platform, or few questions, if any, before I call on the Imam Emeritus again to give his closing remark. If he has not left the platform. Any contribution, please? I was told that after election, you ask people to ask questions or make contribution, and nobody is talking. Two things are possible. is either he has ended up confusing us or he has ended up convincing us. And I always find it difficult to know which one is correct, especially with our loud silence. But somebody said he has a question, but so my one and only coordinator is raising up his hand, and who am I to say no? You have the floor, sir. Kindly unmute yourself, sir. Can the host unmute my coordinator, national coordinator, please, to make his contribution? Dr. Nurudin Asunugeshu, please unmute. Where is he again? Please.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, the host was not allowing me to come in. I want to thank my brother for the beautiful whatever. I joined rather late. I don't know exactly what he had said, except that I want to appreciate him and say that basically we'll continue to travel in the circle we are traveling, because what is principal is the fact that it's all about resources. No two ways about that. That had consistently been the position of the Jews. The Jews do not believe in the concept of immortality, because as far as they are concerned, when something is said to be impersonal, that will be contradiction in itself when you want to relate or connect it with the whole issue of immortality. They have really never had a culture. What they have done is to move from a thriving civilization from the one that is already waning. And so as it relates to the hereafter, the issue of accountability, they don't believe. One of the reasons why, of course, they are so opposed, pathologically opposed to anything Christianity, is that the concept of Christianity talking about a Messiah who had come to die for the sins of the world, the belief they have is that the Messiah that is to come is a historic, a national hero, so to speak, who will help to establish dominance on the surface of the earth. So they are not looking forward to an Akhira that is located in a world outside this one. So they want to dominate. But like the Sheikh had observed, they are obviously on their last liter of fuel. We can only succeed to fast track that if we ourselves are not in competition with them in the area of evil, in the area of iniquity. They have exercised dominance because they know exactly what it is they want. In the time past, what we today refer to as nuclear physics used to be called the Jewish or the whatever, Jewish whatever. And again, it explains why they are the ones who are principally dominating the sciences. 99 point something percent of those you find in the sciences, they are the ones who are there. And ostensibly, it is for them to exercise hegemony and dominance over the rest of creation. They live in pockets of communities. You find them in America, you find them in Canada, and anywhere they are, what they are interested in is on how to dominate. We want to thank the stars for showing the ontological relationship between what is happening now and what Islam has talked about even long before now. May Allah preserve him for us, and let's hope that Allah will spare him for the weeks to come, so that we'll continue to drink from his fountain of knowledge. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Jazakallah khairan, sir, for that again beautiful thought. Sister Mariam wants to ask a question. Please, can she be allowed to unmute? The host, please unmute Sister Mariam. She says she has a question for the Sheikh. Okay, she has typed the question, Sheikh. He said, is it in the book of the Jew to hate people who are not of their religion. Can you please shed more light on the concept of Arab Jews? Sheikh?
Well, my understanding of the Jew is that, like our brother just alluded to, they are just discriminatory in nature. In other words, they don't accept external people into their fold, except those over time they have forged alliance with. Like Zionism is a combination of non-Jews are more there, but they had to pretend to say they are Jews. So as long as you don't align with them in their goal, which is always economic reason and all of that, they will always have you, they will see you as an enemy, you're working against them. That is just it. So when we now say Arab Jew, you can only see someone who, having been a Jew, now embrace Islam. And of course, the language of the Quran of Islam civilization is Arabic, and he learns Arabic. Or the other one who, out of evil design and plan, decide to study Arabic in order to twist the message of Islam. But originally, not that you have an Arab who is a Jew, except a Jew who had learned the Arabic language and start to be corrected. These are what I can say to that. Wallah.
It's like asking that a Nigerian Arab. Jewish or Jew is actually a tribe. So, and it will be paradoxical to say you have an Arab Jew. No doubt there are Jews, like I said, for them who embrace Islam and probably lived among the Arabs. So if that would be the meaning of Jewish Arab, but originally, like Sheikh have said, I difficult to have a Nigerian Arab. You're either a Nigerian African or you're an Arab. Historically, Jazakallah khairan. Now that the Imam Emeritus have exited for health reason, I guess, I think I will still have to call on the national coordinator to give the close remark why we urge ourselves to gather here again next week to do it as usual and listen to this very, very important topic. Let me call the national coordinator to give the closing remark.
We once again want to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity and for the life of our brother Sheikh Shuaib. And we hope that we would be able to mobilize more persons to the platform next week so that what he's dishing out, I think the meal is so, in terms of quantity and quality, it is sufficient. Let us not be niggardly in wanting to consume everything in order to avoid constipation. I think the more we are able to get this message and spread it, the better for us. What the Jews have consistently done is to seek ways to, shrink the capacity that people have for cerebral exercises and stuff like that. The more we know, the greater threat we represent for them. May Allah spare us till next week, Saturday, and we hope that will be by far much richer than what we have gotten. May we have a pleasant sleep and a blithesome weekend a new week from tomorrow. Al-Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين آمين سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون سلام والحمد لله. السلام الكريم.